I say don't do that, come up with a brand new beat. Stop trying to recreate stuff. Come up with somebody so unique and so amazing that it eclipses all of the beats. That's what I want. I don't want recreates. That is.
Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. I'm your host Burkhoff, and I'm joined by my friends. Each week we pick a couple of issues, then we sit around and talk about those issues. Gentlemen, how are you doing this week?
Booyah! I'm doing great.
I am doing splendiferous and resplendent.
Whatever those mean.
Mm-hmm. Go look those up. Those $5 words, guys.
So I'm not sure splendiferous is in Merriam-Webster.
It might be.
Yeah, all words are made up. Who cares?
I realized the last couple of weeks I haven't done this, and I apologize to you guys. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
Okay, you can find me at Twitter at Walrus. That's at WALLRUSS. You can also find me at blacksuperherofan.com. I'm also working on another comic, Creators of Color. It's currently in revamp, so I can't recommend it just yet, but the stuff is there if you want to take a look. That's where I am right now. More to come.
Beautiful.
Manuel?
You can find me on the gram, that's Instagram, at MEM_MAN_YOU_EL, Emmanuel. Also, EmmanuelTheStory.com. Find me there.
Nice.
Word.
All right, as always, we've got 6 issues this week, 2 for each of us. I'm going to run down my 2, and then Russ, you'll do your 2, and then Emmanuel, you'll do your 2. We got my first book of the week is Stealth number 2. So we did Stealth number 1, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Something like that. I was really impressed with the first book. I really liked how it ended and had to know what was happening. And the owner of the comic shop that I go to, he pointed out to me, he goes, "Hey, you like that Stealth book? I got issue number 2 in." So I picked it up this week. And my second issue is Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, Something Wicked number 1. This is the new Sabrina that's being published by Archie, I guess. I'm not sure if it's just a 5-issue miniseries or if it's going to be ongoing. Russ, what 2 are you bringing to the table?
I bring from Image Comics Birthright. I'll get more into it once we start talking about that. And I also bring a web comic that I found was noteworthy called The Immortal, Nadia, Greene.
Manuel?
Beautiful. I am bringing Afterlift. That is number 1. It's a Comixology original. And also Shazam, volume 3. This is issue number 12, the current run, 2020.
Nice. All right. We'll jump right into it then. So Stealth number 2, gentlemen. We did talk about this, like I said, about 4 months ago. This is the next issue. How does everybody feel about where this went and where it's going?
Well, first of all, I liked it. I really liked it going in. I still don't know where it's going, right? My thought is, if I'm writing it, which I am not, it's going that the kid is going to be the new Stealth.
Right, yeah.
That's where you would think it's going to go. It doesn't seem to be moving closer to that, though.
No,
right?
It doesn't.
And that may be good because I don't, I like that I don't really know what's going to happen. We do get to see a big bad or the beginnings of a big bad. And we get a little bit more on how Stealth came to be, which I like, and that is more pedestrian than it is. You know what I mean? It's not some super secret I created some new invention. It's like I got a homie that's into crime that fed me information. You know what I mean? It's more like, yeah, that could happen. If you take the MacGuffin, which is the suit, out of it, everything else sort of follows well, right? And I like that part of it. The art's still good. it's more of the same, and though not as big a surprise at the end as I would, because the first one kind of spoiled me. But I like the fact that the father is horrified about what he did.
Yeah.
That is coming from a person who had issues with his own father that resonated with me, and I enjoyed the book. I will continue to follow it. Daniel.
I really liked the book as well. The storyline. We sung its praises the first time it was introduced, and no less now. This is a good storyline. How it interweaves superheroism with real life issues. The father that has, um, what is it, early dementia, onset dementia, or the early onset Alzheimer's, we don't know. But he slips in and out mentally. And due to his age, we assume, or could it be because of the suit itself, the nature of the suit? Because the suit has, they said a line of dialogue that it has an interface with his brain.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a result of that. Um, it is a really interesting story. I like the villain already. He's not the typical villain. He's villain-esque, and that if you just saw him walking down the street, you'd just be like, "Oh yeah, that guy's a villain." But but like it just he kind of has different motives, a different way of doing things. That's interesting. And also the origin of the suit, that's the question that is still there, which is great. I like the curiosity and the realness of it all. This is a good pick.
Yeah, I would say the bad guy being a ripoff of Two Face kind of sucks. Like I wish that they would have done something a little different for his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, he may end up being a lot more interesting than I originally thought.
And
Um,
remember, this isn't Batman. This isn't Superman. So Stealth pretty much just has, he's not Iron Man, right? He just has a nice metal suit, right?
yeah, I'd
Right.
say he's
Not
closer to
super genius, right? He's not super smart. He's
no.
more a pedestrian guy in a metal suit. And so he probably wouldn't have Lex Luthor level, because if he had a Lex Luthor level villain, that villain would have killed him by now.
Right.
Right.
So we need something a little more terrestrial, brought down to the level of just above the good guy. So I kind of feel like it fits, right? Like, this is a guy who obviously has to operate in the shadows because of how he looks. And he's masterminding Kingpin style, making all these things, making all these moves. It makes sense that Stealth is always getting in his way.
Yeah, he's definitely a mobster for
Yeah.
sure. I thought it was interesting, Russ, you'd said that you thought it was moving towards the sun being or becoming stealth.
Mm-hmm.
And Emmanuel, you mentioned the port in his back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they don't ever show up, but they talk about how that like there's some type of an interface that the backpack has that links directly into his spine, which directly into his nervous system. Um, and I wonder because if it's like alien technology, right, and maybe he was abducted when he was in the burning building or something, that could happen to
Right.
the sun. Maybe the aliens come back and say, "Well, you're going to be the successor or whatever." We don't even know if it's aliens. I'm just speculating.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't think it's aliens.
you don't?
No, I think it's some super secret organization that is experimenting and say, well, if we got to experiment on somebody, let's experiment on somebody that's basically
Okay.
right. Because in the real world, right, you don't want to give it to a murderer, right? But you do want to experiment on somebody, and you know that in all comics and movies, sometimes the creation come back and destroy the master,
Okay.
right? So let's at least pick a decent guy and put it in him.
Nice.
So
I
you
like
think
that.
you think the building was staged?
No,
That the
maybe it
fire was
was.
staged? That
Yeah, they
they
might have said we want a fireman. Remember, they said he said there was something wrong about this fire,
Mm,
right? Even in the beginning, he said there's
that's
something
good.
not right about this fire. We shouldn't be here. Something to that effect, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So yes, okay. So here's my theory. Yes, it was staged. They wanted a fireman, right? Because they didn't want to get a military guy, because military guys, they come over and shoot people and all that stuff, right? They
Right,
wanted
right.
a fireman, a good all-around person who cares about the world, who's generally a good guy, right? Someone who might go in and save people and and put himself in danger, right? That's a safe person to give power to.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, uh, and they may have even just gone to the level of predicting that he would be the one that would go in. Who knows, right? We don't know
Mhm.
how deep they are in that. But if I'm going to give power to some random person, right? Because I'm experimenting. A fireman can always die, by the way, in a fire. So we could kill him easily if we really needed to, right?
okay, yeah,
Right. Uh, so and it'll automatically look like an accident. We can just like turn off his brain and then have something fall on him, whatever we want to do. So I won't say that the people who gave them the suit are necessarily good people. I don't know that they're necessarily evil either. Maybe they're just science people. So
right,
they don't give a damn about humanity, but they do give a damn about losing their funding or their monster coming back to destroy them.
okay.
So why I just
Mhm.
made all that up. So none of it's true.
Yeah, we're purely speculating at this point,
Yeah.
but yeah, solid second issue. I'm gonna keep reading this. This is on my pull list now, so um, I'll continue getting it until either the story goes down or they stop publishing it. Any other final thoughts?
No, good issue.
Okay. All right, moving on. My second issue of the week is Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Something Wicked. This is issue number 1. And now that I'm looking at the cover, it does say of 5. So this is a short miniseries that's going to be out. Um, I primarily picked this up just because I thought it was an interesting combination of the Sabrina that we know from the Melissa Joan Hart TV show and the
Mhm.
Sabrina that we've come to love in the Chilling Adventures series that's on Netflix, which is a lot darker.
Oh yeah.
And this is kind of a mix in between. I really liked the artwork. I thought it was appealing and it still had a comical quality to it. What are your guys' thoughts?
I'll go. I'm not too familiar with the current run of the Chilling Adventures, so I went straight to the TGIF Melissa Joan Hart, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I really enjoyed it. That was one of the series that I really really liked as a kid. TGIF, very nostalgic, childhood. Love to go back there, and this kind of brought me back with Salem talking,
Yeah.
Harvey, that romance between the two. Like there were some familiar things that I haven't thought about these characters in years, really. So to be reintroduced to them and see how they're doing, kind of get an update on their lives, so to speak, it was good. I really enjoyed this. Um, much more than I would have if I would have just come into this without any prior knowledge of Sabrina. Uh, for me, this was a really great pick because of the nostalgia. Trying to look at it from a different perspective, I don't think I would have enjoyed it that much. The art itself is it's typical of like a magic type of book. The kind of paint,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and I'm looking at different panels to kind of give me that feel again. But the magic, it very much pops. And then when she's in school, that high school drama, teen angst, and this was before when I was watching TGIF, the version, the Melissa Joan Hart version. This is before I ever went to high school, so I kind of based my high school knowledge on this. Like, oh, this is what it's going to be like. Sans the powers. Uh, so this was good. I like the back and forth with Sabrina really being a teenager and trying to balance, even without magic. Being a teenager is difficult because you have all these expectations, these different things you have to do. You have to be this way to this person, you have to be this way to that person, and balancing that, trying to figure out how to be a human, and then you compile magic on top of it. This was kind of indicative of that. I appreciated this for nostalgia's sake.
Okay, so my history with Sabrina goes way back to Archie and Sabrina dating, old comics. Sabrina, because Archie just pretty much had sex with every pretty girl. Town.
That's part of the
Super,
appeal of reading Archie, right?
yeah. Archie was a pimp. So I remember that, and I pretty much seen every incarnation. I won't say I watched every episode of the Melissa Joan Hart show. I'm older, so that didn't always appeal to me. all the time because it was more comedy than anything else to me. Uh, I did watch The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so I see some of that here. Uh, I also watched Buffy, so I see some of that here too.
Okay.
So there's next I have to fight evil and do all these things, and yet I have to get my book report done on time,
Right.
right? And I have to deal with which boy likes me and which boy do I like, all of that. So in that respect, this is not my kind of book. I'm not the targeted market. However, I found the art to be pretty decent and enjoyable. It was good in a nostalgic way to see what is the current comic take on Sabrina right now. So I was interested enough to get through the book without any challenges. I wasn't disappointed. They didn't destroy the toys, as it were. Uh, they played with the toys properly, uh, and it's again, it's a good book. I think they did justice to the character, uh,
Yeah.
which is always a concern, if you let people play with the toys. I think they did justice to the character, but this book is not targeted to me. Uh, but I was a lot of little points like this little game, and they aged down the aunties. The aunties, like they're in their 20s now, right? Aren't the
Um,
aunties
Mhm.
I
supposed to
don't.
be? I feel like they were 30s, maybe,
I don't
right?
know. I don't know if they did or if it's just the way it's drawn.
So, and that's all I have to go by, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they're a lot younger. You know what I mean? They're not quite middle aged, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I didn't own how they needed to be. Yeah, as I remember in the old school, they were old and ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they were
Mhm.
old art. They didn't have anything modern popping with them at all. Uh, so this is it's interesting to see all these things come together on the page. So in that respect, I enjoyed the book. However, I'm probably not going to follow it because I sort of see all what I wanted to see.
All right. That's fair. I may bring issue 2 on just to mess with you guys. No,
That is
the primary reason that I picked it up, I think, is because of Kelly Thompson. So I've been following her on the most recent Captain Marvel run,
mhm.
which has been pretty crazy. You know, she Captain Marvel rips Thor's head off, and like all this other crazy stuff happens.
Mhm.
And so I was interested to see like what is her take on Sabrina going to be, because the Chilling Adventures was such a huge departure and so much darker. I
Yeah.
thought, well, this has got to be yeah, how does she tackle it? So
This
I was kind of interested in that, and it was an interesting uh, blend and sort of step back to the more I don't want to say pedestrian, but um, more comedic, subdued, not quite as dark. You know, more
Mhm.
lighthearted.
this reminds me, if I were to give a Marvel equivalent, I would say Miss Marvel or Squirrel Girl.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah,
I see Squirrel Girl.
Because there's definitely a comic element in Squirrel Girl, even though she's really is fighting crime and telling
Mhm.
stopping Galactus off panel, all of that. I felt like there's a lot of that there. And again, those books also aren't marketed toward me, so I'm only saying that because I got a similar vibe.
yeah. All
A-
right.
As an end note, I had the warm tinglies when it came to Zelda Spellman, one of um, Melissa Joan Hart or Sabrina's aunts.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I just have to share that.
I can
My
feel.
little overshare.
I'll co-sign. I'll feel you on that.
Yeah.
No worries. You can bring that into the light. No problem. I'm with you.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Russ, your first issue of the week.
Yes, my first issue of the week is Birthright, but Image. You can read it free online. Image Comics has a whole bunch of first issues. This is included in them. Birthright is the story of a boy who got lost, what happened to his family, and then he shows up a lot older. And without telling you more, because I kind of would like you all to read it, what do you guys think?
Manuel.
Sure. I think it was from my personal perspective, it was a missed opportunity to not tell this story from a detective standpoint. Granted, none of the characters, the major characters, are detectives, and why would a random cop just be telling the story? But I think I would have liked a lot better had this been an episode of like CSI missing persons or like that kind of feel, because you have this kid that has just gone missing. Was he abducted? Was he killed? We don't know. And just that mystery involved, I would have appreciated that more than what we got. What we got was son playing with his father in the park. It's his birthday. It's going to be a surprise. And then the son goes missing. And then the father's subsequently blamed for his murder, his disappearance. And the father goes into this drunken stupor because his wife is filing for divorce. Months have passed. I think it was months, not years, but
It was 1 full year, I think.
okay. So yeah, years passed, and he still hasn't been found. The brother's still lamenting, still posting signs, and you see the effect of his disappearance. But I think taken from a police officer's perspective, it would have given it a greater feel for me, more of a mystery. But what we got was okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. Again, the art itself, not dynamic. The art was still good. It was serviceable, but it wasn't something that raised my eyebrows. The story itself was good. This is just me nitpicking. What we got was a less than cop version, and it was still good. I still appreciated the fact that the kid came back with this great grand story, and at the end, he's not who I thought he would be. I thought he would be, since he was taken as a kid, he would still have this, and he wasn't like jaded by this world. He was jaded by another world. He would still have this purity to him, like this do rightness, but not necessarily. And that was surprising. That raised my eyebrows. At the very last panel, I was surprised. So I appreciate that.
I kind of agree with Emmanuel on the not telling the story from a detective's point of view. That would have been interesting, but I feel like the reason that they did it from the family's perspective was to give that extra layer of emotion. You gotta have that to care about why the kid's missing. I think if it had been told from a detective's point of view, we wouldn't have cared about the kid as much. We would have cared more about where is this detective going with this and what's going on in his life.
I see that.
So to that end, I think that doing it from the family's perspective works. The artwork overall, I liked. I feel like the artwork is very much. It feels like an image book. Like the way the faces are drawn, the way the panels are done, all that kind of stuff. I thought that it was interesting. It's sort of a reverse Peter Pan. Instead of going to Neverland and never growing up, he goes off to this crazy medieval land where he grows up. And spoiler warning: the end of the first issue, he comes back, and the twist is that he's evil, or he's at least inhabited by an evil spirit of some kind. That caught me off guard, and while I was like going along in the issue, I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Like, I wish there was more fantasy stuff going on. The fact that the troll or goblin or whatever you want to call it saves the kid sort of hints and foreshadows the fact that he's going to be evil, because it's like, why those in traditional fantasy settings, those are not good characters. Those are evil monsters that need to be slayed. So that part of it, I was like, oh, okay, they're leading to something here. Like they're doing something with the fantasy tropes. Overall, I thought it was good. I'm kind of curious what happens. I don't know how many issues this is. Is this
It is quite a few issues.
Okay.
It's an ongoing. I want to say at least 20 issues are in the books. I went and read ahead because I didn't think you guys were. So I read until the end of the first, I guess, graphic novel collection.
Okay.
To get to the end of that story arc. The second issue takes place immediately after this one, and it gets a lot more into the world he came from. And it's, from what I hear, what you say, it's not quite like what you think.
Yeah, I mean, they do hint at it for sure. Yeah, we should mention this is 2014, so there's plenty to get into. Like if you do read the first issue
Yeah, there were 43 issues so
okay,
far. This one did come out, or last month, or this month, or whatever. So if it's definitely an ongoing. And I was wondering, like, how do you keep this going?
yeah,
And they do a pretty good job. There's because you over time you get to know the lore of the place that he's from.
yeah,
You get to find out how much of him is remaining, and I don't want to spoil it. Let's just say a remnants of his life. The boy who went over, the man who's returned. Remnants of his life over there will come into this world.
okay.
Okay.
I can't say any more than that to spoil it, but it was really interesting.
All right. I would say the only con that I have, and this is, I guess, just me growing up. It has the He-Man movie vibe to it, where like he
Yep.
comes into the modern world. I'm like, no, 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 just stay in the fantasy land. I don't want you to be in modern times. So like
Uh,
that's the only thing that I did particularly care for. But otherwise, I thought it was good. I thought it was an
it's like
enjoyable read.
Conan coming to the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
He's still Conan, right? He ain't changing. The world changes around Conan, right? But
yeah,
if Conan shows up at a bar, there is no moment that he is not Conan, right?
right.
He's sort in some way he's worse than Thor, because Thor is kind of good-hearted. Conan just doesn't care,
Yeah,
Right.
right? So think for me, it's like the Punisher, Conan, from another, from another world sort of thing. But anyway, I like this. I agree with you. The art isn't to the level I would have liked it to be, but it didn't take away from
Mhm.
my interest in the story. Again, and it was just okay, and I thought worth sharing. And then that last panel, I was like, oh shit, now I gotta find out. I gotta know,
Yeah,
right? I gotta know what this, right? Because again, you don't see, even the two of you who read comics did not see it
no,
coming,
yeah,
right? So that was great, and that you write that, and none of the three of us saw that coming, and it did sort of elevate the book to just above, just like okay. For me,
Right.
it's like, well, there's something there I want to know, so that's why I brought
all right.
it. Anything else before we move on?
Nope.
All right. My last book today is a web comic. It's free. It's called The Immortal Nadia Greene. And so, because it's a web comic, it has all the pitfalls, things of web comic, but I thought it looked amazing, and I loved the story, and I thought I'd share it. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
So, Jamal Campbell, right, is the guy
Yeah.
that draws this. He is an amazing artist. Like the stuff that he does, it blows my mind. And I remember when we read Far Sector issue number 1, which I think was also like 4 or 5 months ago.
Mhm.
I remember being kind of stunned by what he was doing. There's a lot of interesting things that he does in terms of the way that he poses characters, the way that he does color, the way that he does hair. Hair, I feel like, is very difficult to draw and keep interesting. So, a lot of artists have like one or two hairstyles that they do, and like everybody has that hairstyle. Um, Amazingly enough, like every character has different hair. I know it's a weird thing to be like impressed by, but yeah, just the way that he does it too is like really interesting. Um, Overall, I thought the premise was pretty cool. You have this little girl that cheats death, and she does so by fighting back. Says basically, "Fuck this! I'm gonna live. You're not gonna stop me and take me." Um, I think that the overall, though, even though there's a lot of different things that happen, this sort of suffers from what all webcomics suffer from, and it's just they meander because it's just a new page every week, every month, and it just keeps going, and there's no real. I don't feel like there's really much structure to it. That being said, like if he was still doing this, I would still be checking out the page every month just because it's amazing, like the artwork that he does. And the story itself I didn't really connect with. Um, but overall, I thought it was pretty cool for a webcomic and really impressive for something that was done 5 years ago. There's no doubt, like the reason that he's working in comics is because he's on a level above a lot of people. Um, a lot of interesting things that he does, like with the way the dialogue boxes are, dialogue bubbles, the way the panels are outlined. This is definitely his portfolio to show people, right? But yeah, Manuel, your thoughts?
Yeah, you're definitely an artist, Matt. You noticed the hair. That's something that went straight over my head, no pun intended. Um, so the art, amazing. I really, really appreciated the art, the detail, the use of the colors, the shadowing. I really, really appreciated it. The story itself, I've always been fascinated by that ferryman tale. When a person passes, you have this entity take them to the underworld, or you take them to Valhalla, or whatever religion or mythos you're following. That, as you'll see later on in this episode of Corner Comics, is kind of my theme. So the story of this kid, even at the age of 5, fighting to survive. That is awesome. And then you see the progression. You see her at 15, you see her at 20 something, still fighting. And then knowing these entities, and they actually like her. Like, she is a badass because she fights. Every other human, every other soul that they've taken, we get the impression that they've come just willingly and they're submissive. They're like, okay, it's my time. And then just passive, but not her. She fights. She fights them physically, like with a bat, a manifested bat, and beats them over the head, gains their respect. And she does this on a consistent basis. This is awesome. And then in the real world, in like the human world that she lives in, she can't speak of it because, of course, people think she's crazy. So she just lives her life, has friends, has family, and then whenever the time comes to her to battle, she picks up that bat and kicks ass again and goes right back. That is great. I really like that concept, and also the fact that they use the different mythological figures, such as Odin, such as Hermes, such as, like, this is Hel, Hel. That is great. It's good storytelling. This is a nice tale and done in a very artistic way. I really like this comic.
One of the things that I liked was that she's still dying. She's still sick. You know how you go into each chapter and she's older, so it's like this
Yeah.
happened, and she's still having to deal with that. She's actually supposed to die, right? And she refuses. So that this little girl, and I also like it's an out of body experience, right? Like the rest of the world freezes, like Bleach and Ichigo when he leaves his body, he's out his big sword, right? He has a sword. Like she just walks up, she just like, nope, not today. And in her hand, before she swings, a bat of her own creation made of cosmic stuff, right? Comes and knocks out a god to say, no, you can't take me to hell. That is black girl magic if ever there was one. Uh, so I like the nerve of that, right? And I gotta wonder, like, who in his life does this character remind him of? Like, who did he get this from? That would be an interesting story. Uh, so I love the art. This is probably my favorite artist currently of all time right now.
Yeah.
So I love his art. So I already knew visually, but this is also him writing, right? This is nobody else. So this is entirely his thing. So for him to be able to come up with a concept and play it through and progress, because it's dangerous when you age up a character, right? You go to chapter 2 and they're now, they were 4, now she's 14 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That is, you can't go back, really. You know what I mean? You could tell older stories, but that's very daring to push a comic forward that way, right? And then to do yet another aging up in the next chapter. So I thought this is if someone who already can draw very well, has a great artist, uh, uh, come up with a story, and maybe he got that from being in the industry and learning how these things are created and working for other storytellers. But for this to be a free online comic with the quality that you would normally have to pay for, in fact, most of the books we show do not have this level of art.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? So for this to be a free comic, I highly recommend the Immortal Nadia Greene, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really nice surprise. I only found it because I happened to been looking into what more has this artist done, because maybe I'm missing some books. And then I found this. I was like, oh my goodness, why didn't I know about this? I was very pleased with it. And I do like the story because I do know some young women with that level of attitude that would just defy logic. They will defy money. They will defy power. And it doesn't even matter what the hell you're talking about. This is my reality, and I'm the dominant force here. And here's a bat.
Yeah.
So I like all that. The whole thing could even be a dream, and it would still work. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anything else?
Shout out to Jamal Campbell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say that it's almost like Yu Yu Hakusho. So anybody that digs Yu Yu Hakusho, it's a little bit like that. Um, I'm to my point where it meanders a little bit. It ends, I think, in 2015. So he hasn't done any, or is it 2015 or 2016? He hasn't
But he has,
done any new ones for like the last 4 years. I would love to see some more pages and see this fleshed out more. Because towards the end, we do get into it's her and another character that are both in this limbo state, right? So there's a lot that could be done here. I was craving a full story arc and didn't get it. Like it just.
I feel the same way.
So yeah,
He probably just got more work, right? If you think about it, he's just doing Green Lantern. He's probably doing so much more work right now
yeah,
that back then he was doing some work, right?
right,
And people were like, "Oh my goodness, I need you to draw everything," right? And now all of a sudden, he's getting all this work, and I think this new Green Lantern is going to put him on an even larger portion of the map, because it is a very new character. It is a Green Lantern that has that mythos. We also have a new writer into the industry. So I think that if he wasn't already, he may never be able to get back to this.
right.
But at least he was using his creative juices. And if you want something free that looks good and has a good concept, it's just like reading the first issue. You read the first issue, you want more, you gotta wait
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years.
All right. Manuel, your first issue of the week.
My first issue is Shazam, Volume 3, issue number 12, DC comic. And it shows a team up, even though Batman would never say it. It is a team up between Billy Batson, aka Shazam, Captain Marvel, and Bruce Wayne, aka the Batman. What are you guys' thoughts?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the art, it's very good DC art, right? It is very much DC art. This is not the art you tend to find in Marvel Comics. It looks great. It's not obviously the best ever anywhere, but it was enjoyable. It was a pleasure to see. I like the details on the faces. I think I've seen some of this. Artist must have done some Batman stuff recently too, right? So the close-ups on the faces were really good. Uh, and as far as the story goes, I like the fact that Shazam doesn't have any real like noteworthy villains. Like Spider-Man has 1,000 great villains, right? Mm-hmm. Shazam, how many Shazam villains can you name never having read this book, right? And the only one you got is Black Adam, right?
Yeah.
Or Savannah or whatever, right? He's got a Lex Luthor. And so for him to be, this was a guy, this is a character that was eclipsing Superman in sales before DC bought them, the company, right? That I like that point, that sort of wink back at the camera, like, we know we ain't got that good villains, homie. We working on it, right? And I like the part where Batman knows he's the coolest thing going. No, Superman teams up with me. Right? That's some straight up Batman shit. You know what I'm saying? Why
Yeah.
Batman got to be arrogant on top of all that? You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad at him though, right? And then the smile, then he does a smile and wink to the camera because I'm Batman. Right? If every time, so that was fun and enjoyable, and this is sort of a fun and enjoyable. There's not a lot at stake. There's just a lesson for Billy to learn and some more experience for him to have. But it looked good and it felt good. It was a feel good kind of comic. So, and I'm always down for that. DC, I feel like a lot, more often play in this space. So, I felt that. What do you think?
Yeah. So if I had been, I don't know, 10 or 12 reading this, I would have been mad because it's so campy and so. But as an adult, I freaking love this. This was exactly the type of issue that I wanted this week. It's self-contained. We get this fourth wall breaking humor that's not over the top. Um, it was really interesting, and I think that it definitely speaks to things that we think about. Like you said, how many villains can you name of Shazam? Like, does it really matter? There's a crocodile in a suit. Like that's it was really good. Artwork was fantastic. I think the coloring was really good, and the way that Batman was drawn, he's sort of an old school Batman, which was kind of cool. I liked that. Um, Shazam. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this. It's just really enjoyable, self-contained. If you have any interest in Shazam and you want to get into the character, this is a great book to pick up, even though it is issue 12. Um, it's a shame that he doesn't fight another one of his villains. Like the Scarecrow is sort of the ultimate villain of this story. Um, and it does start to take like a dark turn for a little bit because it could have gone a totally different way. They could have started off campy and then he inhales the Scarecrow serum and could have gone crazy, and that could have gone somewhere entirely different, but they bring it back around, and the ending conversation between him and Batman was really good. And yeah, there was sort of a wink to the camera of like Superman teams up with me. um, yeah, overall it was a great issue. I really enjoyed it, and I may actually go and physically purchase this one.
Awesome.
Now that I've read it, just to have it.
I think it's a good comic to share with a friend too. That just
Oh,
like
yeah.
this is the fun that you can get from DC. And I like the fact that, and when you think of like who is Billy Batson in this world, and Billy Batson is someone that's always learning.
Yeah.
They can raise Billy Batson, because Billy Batson's still, a teenager, probably younger than Miles Morales, right? With the power of Superman. He is someone that can still learn. He's someone that is more wide-eyed. I like the part where he says, "Did you hear about this from the blimp?" Because he was flying around looking for crime. He didn't know where to go, what to do. And the blimp, he was serving the blimp. Oh, okay. And he flew in there, and then Batman talked him through the Scarecrow's toxin.
Yeah.
And so whenever, it's all about a character sort of rising above adversity or whatever, even at his own self. So there's a lot of elements there that make this a good, well-contained one issue, and something to leave on a coffee table and share with a friend. That they like, that was cute. I was like, yeah, it was.
The last thing I'll mention is I like that his handicapped friend was giving him shit the entire issue.
Just like the movie, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the movie, I recently saw it again, and there's a scene where the whole family, or not the whole family, all of his siblings, they're going through this tunnel. They're trying to find their way home. They're in the magical Shazam, the wizard's lair, and they're trying to find their way home, going through various doors. One of the doors they open up is a poker table with crocodile men wearing suits.
Interesting.
And they get up to attack the person that opened up the door, one of Billy's brothers, and he closes the door really quick. That was a little Shout out to the Crocodile Man in that
Yeah.
movie.
So see, because I go way back with Shazam too, right? So there's a lot of characters. He has a huge rogues gallery. It's just not in DC, right? So Mr. Mind the Worm is a big one. Savannah is big, but there's Iback. There's people who also have magic words, right?
Mm.
Iback is the first one that comes to me. There's caveman. There's all kind of crazy different things of people, characters that he fought that were sort of unique to the time that are going to have to all be revamped, just like the crocodiles, to be made modern somehow. But he does need its own, like, because he has a Lex Luthor in Savannah. He has an anti Shazam in Black Adam. What else kind of characters, when you look at Superman, maybe we need someone with Shazamium that can sap his powers.
Shazam. I
Shazam.
think the Mr. Mind would be kind of like Gorilla Grodd, a hyper intelligent non-human.
I can see that. But there are a few that because you've seen the movie, but there's way more. They just haven't been modernized.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Can he hit a girl? What if there's a super fighting girl and he's like, I can't hit a girl? Right? What does can Shazam hit a girl? You tell me. If Wonder Woman said let's spar, is he going to hit Wonder Woman?
Probably not.
And if Wonder Woman said let's spar, I think he still being all of 12, 13.
Yeah.
Well, even in the Shazam mode, would just sit and stare at her.
Yes, probably so. So that's another thing about Shazam is that he probably wouldn't hit a girl. So if somebody was robbing a bank, right, and he went to grab her and touch me, oh, you touched me, and she, right, and so he easily just befuddle and baffle Shazam by just having an overzealous, right? And Savannah, by the way, has a son and daughter, twins.
Okay.
That's how they baffled him. So there's different types of stories to tell with Shazam only. Because what Marvel character is not going to hit a girl? Give me one. They're all going to hit a girl. Even Iron Man. Everybody's going to hit a girl. Even the chivalrous Iron Man. And it's be like, I'm sorry to have to do this, but I got to replace. Right? But only DC, which is the Disney of comics in its own way, right? Only DC, even though they're Marvel, they own Marvel.
Yeah.
With characters that won't hit a girl, with the power of Superman that would never hit a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Captain America.
Go hit one.
Yeah.
He may try
equal rights.
Yeah. Right. But that's so I like that there's something about, and I think the unique stories to be told, just like there's unique stories to be told with Miles Morales and all these other characters that I like. There's something to be told with some wide-eyed person with that power and the potential to surpass even Superman as far as power level and magic.
Well, there's no limit, right? I mean,
well, he has the strength of Hercules, so if Superman's stronger than Hercules, maybe that's a limit.
Okay. All right.
Speed of Mercury. So the Superman is faster than the speed of Mercury, maybe that's a limit. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I think he's like matched with Superman at bottom tier, but then Superman already has levels, so or unlimited.
I don't think he's just not smart enough. He's not trained fighter, right? So here's someone. If I had the powers of Superman, I'm not a trained fighter, right? I got to make sure I don't hurt anybody if I got those kind of powers, right? I got to think about if I fight and fall into a building, will that building fall on people and kill them? And even if I subdue the bad guy, what might happen to those people in that building, right? And so these are, there's all these other things that Superman has all figured out.
Yeah.
Right?
He has the wisdom of Solomon, but not necessarily the intellect or the wherewithal, the experience.
Yes. So wisdom means he can, he won't do as many stupid things, and he may find solutions to problems that are more basic, like Solomon would find. Like, I think you heard a story about two women are fighting over whose child a person is. Have you heard this before, right?
Yeah.
And if you would just cut the kid in half and you get one half and you get the other half, right? And then one of the women was like, no, 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 I'd rather her have it. And you knew that was the mother, right?
Right.
So I think the wisdom of Solomon is basic uh, uh, old school deduction to figure things out. Very simple type things. And I like that whoever can figure out how to write that will be interesting. But I know we have another comic, so shall we?
Last thing I wanted to say was that comparison between the Crocodile Man and Killer Croc.
Okay. Yeah,
That
at the end
was
where Batman mentions it. Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty cool. I would like to see them not team up, but I don't
Yeah.
know, just some sort of amalgamation between the two.
All right. Manuel, your second issue?
My second issue is a Comixology original. This is issue number 1, Afterlift. Chip Dzarsky, Jason Liu, Paris Annalene. There's 2 more. Alison O'Toole and Nadia Benekar. I butchered most of those names, so have fun with that. Let me give you a little abridged version. There is speaking of the fairy lifting, like the after death, the mythology of this individual, this person, fairy lifts you to the underworld. That has taken that mythos and modernized it a bit. So you have this Uber Lyft driver. I don't know if it's Uber or Lyft or what, but you have this rideshare driver um, assisting this young lady, and interest ensues.
I'll go. I started off reading this like, what the hell is this millennial bullshit? We gotta, we gotta find out about an Uber driver. I don't know if I really care about her story. And then things start to turn, and they get a lot more like the cover of the comic. And I was immediately into it. I was totally like, okay, this I can take this. This is going in a very supernatural direction. This guy that's in the back seat is not who we think he is. Um, so yeah, it's overall really good. You do have to wade through the first couple of pages. Um, Hopefully, her character gets to be a little more interesting as these issues progress. But artwork was good. I liked it. It has a very digital quality to it. The way that they're utilizing it's not like heavy black lines everywhere. There are other colors that they sort of outline stuff in. It has a digital painterly quality to the artwork. Um, the writing and dialogue was pretty good. And yeah, overall the story, like, we don't know what's going to happen. She's sort of roped into this scenario where she is helping ferry this dead person to the other side, um, just by virtue of being an Uber driver, I guess. But maybe there's something more to that, and they'll continue that on. Um, Overall, I thought it was pretty good. It starts off slow, but it gets you there, and it has an interesting twist to it. Russ?
Okay, this comic frustrated me on many levels. The art is just okay to me. I did not find the art to be especially pleasing or to draw me in. Not to say the art was bad or terrible, it was sort of just there, right? It didn't like, ooh, I didn't need to look that deep. It wasn't, if you look at the close-ups in the face, it didn't give me anything special that said, this is art I want to see again. So that sort of frustrated a little bit. And then the second level of frustration is how long it takes to get to the friggin' story. Oh, man. And this book seems so long and all that. So I was going through that. And then come to find out, she is all of a sudden has no choice, and she got to ferry somebody to hell or wherever, or she's going to be in limbo forever. She didn't even do shit wrong. Like, what, I'm thinking, because if that happened to me, I'm doing my regular Uberization, you know what I'm saying? Getting my Uber on, whatever, handling my business, being respectful to my riders, right? And all of a sudden, do this or you die. What the fuck, man? Don't I have enough issues in my life? right? So, I tried to, channel that character, and I was like, that's just a messed up thing to do there, right?
Yeah.
Later on, if she got superpowers, I would have her kill that guy. Like, why would you do that to her, right? It's not okay, right? So that was the third level of frustration. Um, uh, and for some part, because I read through the whole story, obviously, I thought she died like 8 panels back, and she just didn't know, right? That would explain, you know what I mean? Because the same guy who came in the car was the same guy she met and got a cigarette from,
Right. Yeah.
right? I'm thinking she died back then, right? She didn't know it. She went to live in her life, and then he shows up again, right? And probably going to tell her next issue, oh, by the way, you're already dead. The only way you're going to get this is to bring you back, which increases the frustration because he didn't do anything, right? She's thrust in a situation where she has to Uber a soul to hell, not even to heaven, right?
Right.
Like, is there something worse than hell? If this person doesn't get to hell, is there something worse? Then what the hell is hell? Hell must not be that bad, right? You're saying that instead of going to hell, just hand it off to these horsemen or whatever. Why don't you just let them eat her? Then it'll be done. She won't be in hell, right? Why? Right? Otherwise, she's not going to purgatory. So this is somebody who, I don't know, what, killed themselves or whatever, or did something stupid. And apparently, whatever it is, she doesn't get to go to purgatory. Maybe there's no purgatory in this universe. She got to go to hell, but I can't let these other people catch me to get her, to stop me from taking her to hell. I was like, that fourth level of frustration, that's where I was done. I read the whole thing. And this is not the first Comixology original I looked at. There is a second issue, by the way. But it just made me frustrated, not even angry, just annoyed at a lot of different levels. And this is not to say that it was bad or terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't watch a lot of scary movies, not that they're not good, because I don't like those emotions. You know what I mean? I don't play a lot of scary video games.
I get it.
Great, but I don't want to feel that way, right?
Yeah.
And so it's generated so many like frustrating, like, oh shit, and then the art is not that good. Oh, and shit, and did she die? And right, and so I went through all of that at different levels and at different times. And so, is it a bad book? No. Am I going to read issue 2? Fuck it, I might, because the level is just enough there that I might punish myself for one more issue. But I know I'm not going to finish this. That's my whole, you know what I mean? I'm not going to see it through to the end. I might not even make it through the end of the second issue, because if the frustration just continues, I'm like, nope, Spider-Man. You know what I mean? So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be real about it here. It's just, it's just like, that's why I don't read horror books. Even though I think I may have one for next week.
I feel like I didn't mean
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off, man. I feel like to get to some of Russ's points about, like, she didn't do anything wrong. Why is she in this situation? That's the George R. R. Martin approach to storytelling, right? Like, just these people have to die because they're a victim of circumstance. That's just,
Why do I got to hear that story? Don't talk to me about that, right? Why do you make me go through someone, try to make me care about them just so you can murder them violently, right?
Yeah.
Like, which was the Stark dude that just wanted to be a good person and love the right person, and then they had the red wedding. Like, why do you have to, was it the red wedding or the other wedding before that?
Yeah, it was Rob Stark, I believe.
Rob Stark, yeah. And I'm thinking, why, right? And then Ned Stark wasn't even fucking doing anything wrong. Let's talk about the dad, right? He didn't do shit wrong his entire fucking life, right? Yep. He was fucking good and loved and appreciated and brought truth and everything.
Yep.
And he had to die.
Yep.
That's fuck. Why? And then somebody got to get pushed off the fucking building, and he had to fucking lose his legs. Why? So he can have super legless powers? Come on, Why? Why are you doing this? Why, where's the fun? Where's the, and I understand we need, but I like there to be, I guess maybe I'm just Disney person at heart. And I just got to feel like, what do they say? Because I hate platitudes. I really do.
Mhm.
Right? Whenever someone explains something to me, use a cliche, I say, you know what the fuck you're talking about? You're just using a cliche. Tell me what the hell you mean, right? And so, but I like to feel like in my stories, everything happens for a reason, even though I hate that cliche, right? But here, and there may be a reason, right? In issue 8, I will never get to that fucking issue in this book. That's
So
all I.
there's some dialogue in the middle where the main character, she says, "Well, which religion is right?" And then the guy that's in the back seat says, "All of them, none of them." I thought that was cool. I liked that aspect of it, and I think that was the moment that sort of hooked me for this. Was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, what is right or wrong, or
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so
Yep. And maybe you don't have a fucking purpose.
yeah,
Maybe there is no purpose. Just because you believe there is doesn't mean. And maybe your purpose is to have no purpose.
exactly.
The fact that you are experiencing these emotions, that I consider that a win, an immense win, actually.
Yeah, take
Like, you
that.
don't want to feel those emotions, but those elicited emotions, I think that is as valid as happiness and joy. Although happiness and joy feel better, but emotion is an emotion. So I am happy with that. Also, this particular issue has been nominated. This is the reason why I chose it in the first place. It's been nominated by the 2020 Eisner Awards, as we spoke
Nice.
about last week, for Best Digital Comic. I already know that you will not vote for it. You don't think that it should win, but it has been
In the
nominated.
conversation of digital comics, you got to figure digital only comics. What comic? We don't often read a lot of digital only comics, right? Except for the last one, the one I did. What's her name?
The Immortal
Yeah,
Nomi Greene.
Yeah. So we don't often do a lot of digital only comics. So maybe I should look more into that, right? Because the truth is, if I create a comic, and I'd like to think I will soon, it's probably going to be digital only too. It may be print later,
yeah.
but so maybe I need to be looking at these digital books more. So I give you credit for that also, and for frustrating me. I hope you.
All right. So we do have a couple of other items on the show notes this week. Russ, you had mentioned or brought up that Batman issues 1 through 50 are on the Internet Archive. So if you go to
Yes.
archive.org, you can pull up. Well,
Every,
they have a comic reader actually.
yeah.
Um,
So if you want to read the first, and then I found later, I didn't write it here, the next 50 issues are there also. So you could
um,
go to the Internet Archive, and read the first 50 episodes of Batman episodes, issues of Batman, the original debut of Spider-Man, which was only one story, just like Batman was in the Amazing Fantasy comic. So he might not ever have made it.
right.
It's just one story in there, right? So I thought that if you're looking for books to read, and especially if you want to go back into the lore history of these characters, there may be something in the Internet Archive that may be worth your time.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, so you posted that, and I was like, well, that's weird. Why is it just Batman? And then I went back through. There's a whole comic books and graphic novels collection.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go into that collection, there's thousands of books that you can find on the Internet Archive. I don't know how legal that is. I don't know who's uploading these issues. um,
Well, I'll say this: the reason I even found them is because I read an article that says that a current article that says that some of these may go away from the Internet Archive because the purpose of the archive is to record them, but not necessarily to let everybody read them.
okay.
So there is that fight, to happen because the Internet Archive is a for money kind of thing, isn't it? Right? It's got to at least pay for itself, right? They're
Yeah.
not after. So I don't know who's paying to house all this and make all this available. So I said, well, what are they even fighting over? What's there?
Right.
And then I looked and I was like, oh my goodness, there's 1010, there's Prince Valiant, there's, Mad Magazine kind of things. There's all kind of stuff down here to read. And I don't know if they're in danger of losing it, but if you're looking for, because we got, money is rough these days, but most of us still have the internet.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for some comics to read, check out the Internet Archive. Read the original Batman. Let's talk about who Batman used to be, or go back. And by the way, not all these are that old. I found stuff that may not even be 10 years old. There's a lot of stuff, and I didn't even, how deep did I even look, right?
Right.
So there's a lot to read here, and if you want to get some more comics, and you want to not feel like you're breaking the law by reading them, there you go.
It's great.
Also,
gray market.
There's if you guys will look up LibriVox recordings, they have the archives of the radio shows for old school television or old school radio programs, such as the Batman and Superman and if I'm not mistaken, Green Hornet, like just those very old retro type comics that they adapted into the radio version of them. So you can listen to it on your way to or from work, or just like a podcast, and just listen to a comic. That's available in the LibriVox recordings.
Nice.
Free and public domain.
Yep. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
The shadow knows.
And by the way, I've listened to one of those recently, like in the last few months at this site, actually. And it's still good stuff. It's still, I won't say it holds up so well as it is interesting enough because if you only, to tell a story and get you into the superhero and you only have audio, remember some people, that's all they had in their living room, right?
Right.
Was a big, that's kind of interesting and amazing. And, if there was no shadow, there would be no Batman.
Yeah. All right. And then
go ahead.
I was going to say we got one other link here. Marvel Unlimited is releasing a bunch of comics by Black creators.
Yeah, free comics by Black creators. Marvel Unlimited is letting you read those for free. And in these times, why not? This is a chance. This is a unique time where a lot of things are coming to light that have been sort of, I don't want to say secret, but just not in the public domain. And now there's just stuff out here that you can read. And Marvel is doing that. And Marvel is making a big deal of that, right? Like even now, we were talking about with Manuel earlier before we came online, Netflix has a whole row of stuff that's all Black stuff, right? Everybody's got here's Blackness. And I'm, saying that tongue in cheek, but also if that interests you, Marvel Unlimited, Marvel Books Only is offering that for free.
Yeah, the first one on the list of the article that you shared is Marvel Voices One Shot, which is one of the issues that I brought on.
Yes.
That I thought was really cool. So if you did not read that back when we did that episode, here's your chance to just read it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Along with hundreds of other issues.
Yeah.
So
it's good stuff, guys.
All right. Next week, I might bring on a comic that involves a superhero team of mutants.
I wonder who that could be. I'm trying to think, what is DC's mutant team called? They don't have one. Maybe Image. Oh wait, you don't have one.
I'm interested to see if I'll be a fan of those.
I am too, Emmanuel. We'll have to find out next week on another exciting episode of Corner Comics. Until then, we're out.
So I gotta ask, man. You going to work yet?